Hi, how you doing, everybody? Welcome to episode 6 on Men versus Ego, overcoming negative thoughts, energy. I have a special friend of mine that I I haven't met in person, but we go way back. It's crazy during COVID times where everybody was in their homes or not allowed to go out. We just clicked on Instagram one day and happened to be at the same park, and we both shared either I think it was a picture or something. And yeah, it's weird, man. I'm so grateful for him. We kept in contact here and there, and I have the pleasure of introducing him to you guys. And without further ado, my friend Ben from New York.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Bobby, for having me. I've been watching some of your episodes, and I think that it's really great that you're doing this. And I do feel honored to be a guest on your show. So I appreciate that. I'm Ben, and like Bobby said, we met a few years back, mainly during the height of the pandemic, and just kind of shared a lot about our point of view to each other on like just what was happening in the world. I think it was kind of a crazy time. So everyone wanted to just kind of find their tribe and find their connections any way they could. Again, really appreciate your friendship and.
Of course, Ben, man, it's been a long time coming. I procrastinated a lot getting this podcast back up and running, but thank the higher power that I got off my behind and said, you know what, if I want to do this, I'm gonna have to do this. And I know that I've told you before in the past, like, hey Ben, you're gonna come on the podcast, you're gonna be here with me, we're gonna talk about stuff. And if you guys don't know, me and Ben are both woo-woo believers. What does that mean? Like, we believe in the spiritual higher power energy. That's one of the things that um basically mashed up together and why we're such good friends. And again, we haven't seen each other in person, so the fact that we're here talking to each other, still checking up on each other from time to time, it shows the power that that we have as human beings to connect. So without further ado, our first chapter, if you will, would be, what do we do to overcome negative thoughts? Then
Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge that negative thoughts are totally normal. They're part of everyday life. You can make the argument that without negativity and hardship, like you really won't be able to truly appreciate when things are positive and going really well. So, there's that. I think the issue becomes when you start feeling overcome by them or kind of they take control, right? So I think that can come in a lot of forms like self doubt, all the way to kind of self hate. And I think one thing you can do is just be very mindful about your thoughts. What I like to do is if anything crosses my mind, I just think about like I just take a moment and kind of from mindfulness perspective, just say like, what's the root of that? Like where'd that come from? And how does that make me feel? So kind of that like self-awareness, I would say, is a good way to overcome. So, just kind of taking a step back and realizing that we're empowered to choose how we react to thoughts like that these thoughts don't define us. And also I would say gratitude is another way to overcome them because, I mean, someone may always have it better than you, but a lot of people definitely always have it worse than you in a way, in a lot of situations. And you need to have that perspective of, shift your perspective, really using gratitude to kind of look at the bigger picture that, your attitude kind of shapes your reality in a sense. And a lot of people don't have as much maybe as you do in that moment or forever. So kind of just realizing that it's not all about you all the time. And yeah, those I think would be the two main ways I would overcome like thoughts like that or energy is kind of self-awareness and probably like practicing gratitude too.
you counter negative with that mindfulness and gratitude. I see. Yeah, that's definitely what I do too. We are not in control of outside events, but we are in control of inside events. So we choose, I believe you said it, we choose to pay attention to. And this all comes back to mindfulness. If something bad happens to you and outside your boss, your girlfriend, your boyfriend break up with you and you're in chaos, but you can't control outside situation, but you can control yourself, you know, just realize that you're the, how would I say it, the observer of your thoughts, and let these thoughts pass, um, and don't pay no attention to them. Realize that they're there, but kind of like ignore them. That's, at least that's what I do. Because I know I can't control everything outside of my my body if certain events go on, but I can control myself. So greatly said, man. I agree. I agree.
And it's almost like you give that energy or those thoughts like power, and you can also choose what you give power to. And power could be like anything from just attention, just your attention, all the way to like part of yourself, you know? So it's kind of like, I choose, I don't, you know, this makes me feel this way. It's kind of out of my control. I don't think I'm going to give that like power, you know. It's good to like work through things and maybe feel that for a little bit and sit with it. But ultimately, you know, before it gets to the point where it kind of engulfs you, you can make the decision to not give it that power.
Yeah. Where attention goes, energy flows, right? So if you give it to attention, you're basically giving your energy away. I remember when a couple days ago when we talked to each other, I said we're like mini creators, and I think you agreed with me in that, to where you manifest things, and what a coincidence that this happened and I wanted it. Or we were thinking about a friend, a cousin that you haven't talked in ages, and all of a sudden they hit you up on the phone, they text you or whatever. It's crazy. But definitely, Ben, I'm on the same side of the river on you on that one for sure. Um, Anything else you want to share before we move on to the next chapter, if you will?
No, I think that's all I had to say on that.
We hit it on the nail. All right. Oh, we hit the head on the nail. Excuse me. Uh, Energy wise, how can you remove this from your path, your life? Any advice, Ben?
Like I said before, I don't know if there's a way to like fully remove it, but it's more just training, because it's part of life. So like it's more just like training your training, I guess, your instincts and your awareness to just recognize it, and then also kind of training your reflexes to deal with them in a certain way. I kind of think like I kind of categorize things a lot. So it's kind of like, what type of negativity is this? What type of feeling is it? And then, you know, where is it coming from, or what's the cause? And then kind of go from there in terms of how I like to react internally and like externally react.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like the same what we talked on the first segment a couple minutes ago. I'd like to add something. I know I told you I've been reading in my other episode too with my other friend Daisy. I've been reading Meditations. Actually, my second time reading it in a span of a month. So the obstacle becomes the way. The obstacle is the way. I know we spoke about this a couple days ago again on the phone, and I've seen back then when I was younger and a little bit more naive than I am now, I didn't realize that that obstacle in my life was the best thing that can ever happen to me in my life, because it built my character, it built my resilience, the things that I never thought I could pass possibly. I was in a negative mindset. I ended up passing them, but it made me more, like I said, resilient. I became the tennis ball, not the egg. And it was just great. So that that passage by Meditation by Marcus Aurelius, it says the obstacle becomes the way. Now I kind of see what he meant, to where take whatever fate gives you for whatever best can serve you as a human being in your life path. They're meant to make you, those obstacles, those the negative energy, the energy wise, your path life, whatever obstacle that you encounter, know that it's for your greater good. I know a lot of people, they see an obstacle and they freeze and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happens to me. Well, I challenge my friends, my colleagues, my coworkers, to look at them in a different way. Flip it. What can you learn from this lesson? What can this moment, this event in life teach you in a positive way rather than in a negative shutting down way? So I just like to throw that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of reminds me of a quote I heard on, I'm not sure, I forgot if it was on YouTube, someone I was watching, or if it was just a friend, but essentially, and I didn't know about this writer because it's the writer who said the quote. His name's Fernando Pessoa. He's like, I don't even know if I said, I don't speak Portuguese, but he's from Portugal. And but yeah, I think his quote was, it goes something along the lines of like, the journey is the traveler. What we see is not what we see. What we see is what we are. And I think, kind of going off of what you just said with the obstacles of the way and stoicism, and Ryan Holiday, right, is who wrote the book. Similarly, in terms of just even your perception or your worldview and how that affects your life experience, it's so connected. So, the journey is the traveler is really, you are the traveler, right? So while you don't control everything external that happens to you, whatever happens, you control the lens in which you take it in. So your journey becomes essentially a reflection of you and how you process information, how you process things happening to you. I just thought that was a really great quote in terms of, right, like negativity. If you view the world in a negative lens or a pessimistic lens, or, just not positively, I guess, right? It's going to paint your journey as all of those things. Again, of course, there's an appreciation for feeling and working through that negativity, but it's not the end all of your journey. It's just a part of it that can be healthy at times, but should never define your journey. So that's kind of something that reminded me of.
Sounds beautiful. What you said, man. I'm left speechless. Basically, it doesn't matter if you choose at the end of the day, you choose, right? I guess I want to give you an example of kind of my understanding of what you said. So if you grew up in poverty in a third world country, um, you can still be happy. Like you don't have to let the outside, maybe that you don't have food for the night or you're thirsty and you have to drive like 50 miles away just to get a bottle of water. But as long as you are happy with yourself, like those outside circumstances, like you can live in the most hostile environments, but still choose to be happy with the little things that life gives you. For example, you're playing with your cousin, you're playing with marbles, maybe you're playing a card game, the simple things that make you happy. Again, the outside events you can't control. You can control yourself and things that happen close to you. But like, is that the type of, I could be totally wrong, but that's how I'm taking it in what you just said.
Yeah, I would say that would be it. I think it's more just, of course, everyone goes through hardship and it comes in a lot of forms. Like poverty is one of them, or being in a war zone, or getting, maybe being unemployed or getting broken up with or something. Different, I guess, levels of, or like it's a spectrum, I guess, in terms of like to what extent it goes into your basic needs for life and like as a human being. That's, one thing, but I think it's more what you do with the hardship, um, you know reframing it as, how strong I can be for those that I love or I'm providing for. Because once you get into more of a negative state, it's only going to be, you're almost guaranteed like a bad outcome, at the end. But I think it's like people that look at it as an opportunity or just persevere and hold certain values or certain things in their life kind of almost outside of themselves. And if, a lot of times that brings people fulfillment and joy. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm kind of rambling, but I think it's more like, yeah, it's like what you do with that hardship. And obviously if you're in a war or extreme poverty, like, it's more, happiness is kind of also a scale. I think it's hard to be happy if you're trying to get water, right? Like kind of those basic needs, but being negative about it will definitely just make it worse. And if you are so negative about it where you kind of shut down and you're unable to just function in those basic duties, like, you might not be able to live, like, and that's the most basic thing we're trying to do here, right? So, I think there's definitely a spectrum of hardship, and I think there are lessons in every level of it, of like how you can do the best with what you have and not paralyze yourself or give up or give in to negative self-talk, negative energy, negative thoughts, things like that.
I think back a couple minutes ago when we first started, you said gratitude, right? Um, I don't think some of us are luckier than others, but to have drinkable water, to have a roof over our head, to have hot water whenever we want to, or food in the fridge whenever we want to. These are the little things that people like sometimes take for granted. While there are other people out there in the world that that have to heat up the water to take a shower, or they have to go outside in the frigid cold just to, do when nature calls. So it's the little things, man. I can't stress enough that the path that my life took, when I joined the military, it's like when you're out there and when you don't want to be out there, but you have to be out there, it makes you grateful for the things that you have at home. It makes you think like, wow, what am I really complaining about? Like, I have shelter, I have food, I have water. I'm surrounded by my friends, my colleagues, and leadership. And like you said, man, I'm pretty sure you heard the phrase that negativity spreads faster than positivity. If you tell a colleague or you bring it up to somebody that something bad happened, and then that person tells another person, and that person tells another person, it spreads like wildfire. I mean, it's better just to don't speak it. If you know it happened, it happened. But like we said earlier, where attention goes, energy flows. To add a little bit more to what we're talking about, Ben, have you ever been in a situation where you walk into a room and right away you can sense somebody that kind of makes you feel uncomfortable? You don't know that, you haven't talked to the person, you haven't met him, you haven't greeted him. It's just something about this person, their energy, their aura is affecting you in some way. Have you ever had that happen before?
I think so, yeah. I think in the past I would have been more avoidant, but over the years I've just leaned into it. Because if I'm having an intuition about something, I like to test my own intuition a lot now. So if I'm straight away kind of thinking something off about this person, I actually kind of approach them and kind of engage and see, like, because I'm curious about my own intuition, what's making me have this response without any input from their end, just them being there. And a lot of times it's kind of a learning moment. And that's, again, like, discomfort is a negative feeling. Like, we don't like to be uncomfortable, but by leaning into it and looking at it as an opportunity to learn not even just about that person, but just about yourself. Like, why do I feel uncomfortable in this moment with them particularly? That's like an example, I guess, of reframing something to be more positive when your initial reaction is negative, just to learn something, and then you walk away having learned a lesson almost. So it's kind of, how could you lose with a new experience or a new learning about yourself and potentially about them?
I never thought about it that way before. Usually, like, from my experience, I usually 9 times out of 10, there is a couple instances where it was just, I guess, bad judgment on my part. But 9 times out of 10, it's usually because that person is shady. Maybe they don't want you to talk to your mutual friends. Maybe they want your mutual friends for themselves, or they see you, you're in a higher position than them, and they see, I should have been me. I'm envious, right? But you can tell the way that you would take on the situation. I never tried it before. I never approached them. I did the opposite. If they want to talk to me, they can, but I'm not going to go out of my way to talk to them. But you can just, like, you can feel that energy, that either it's envy, it's jealousy, it's a negative form of energy. Like I said,
Definitely.
sometimes
It's always good to trust.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, go on. I was going to say, it's always good to trust your intuition. I think, of course, like the environment, you want to be smart about the context of this. Like, if they're truly a dangerous person, don't engage with them. But, if it's more of a safer environment with mutuals, like mutual friends, or I always would just engage and say, I wonder why I'm feeling this about them, and then find out, but not in a way that would put me in danger or put me in a place that's not good, because I'm strong enough to, have to, block that out if I need to. But it's always nice to, like, if you feel you're more of an intuitive person, like I kind of feel about myself, I like to test that a bit and, like, again, find out why. And then that way, if I have that feeling about someone else in the future, it's kind of like, I felt this before, and I found out before that it's because of these reasons that I feel this way. And is it the same about this person? And then you start kind of forming, like, you start learning, and it helps protect yourself, I think, in the long run too.
That old saying, there's different ways to skin a cat. I think it definitely applies to this situation. Whether you go forward and approach them, or you wait and see how the cards may fall. Either way, you're gonna lead to the same destination, if you will. Doesn't matter if you take it your way or your approach. Hey, I want to see if my intuition is right. Maybe I'm the one, I guess, for lack of better words, tripping out. Or I'll wait, let me observe how he or she's acting, and then I'll take it from there. But yeah, Ben, I know that me and you have talked about a lot about, like, tarot and spiritual stuff, manifesting. And I remember you got me a high priestess one year. You got me a necklace one year that had a high priestess. And I know that you know, Ben, but for those who don't know about tarot and stuff, the high priestess, its intuition is basically, it's knowing without knowing, right? You don't, it's something inside you. And I think when you feel that little voice, that gut feeling, you should listen to it instead of ignoring it, for sure. And I thank you so much for that beautiful necklace you got me a couple of years ago, Ben. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, you got me that bracelet that was like, kind of like good for your energy. I think it was like multicolored, and definitely wore that a lot. I think that stuff kind of helps, because it's another, I think, a form of protection for energy. So you're kind of like, in a way, like you can't see it, but it's there, that protection. And
Yeah. Anything else before we move on to the next subject then?
no,
No? Good. Thanks,
I'm
man.
good.
So the next one is, how do these negative thoughts come about? I think we hit on it when we first talked about it. It could be circumstantial situations. It could be maybe depression. It could be all sorts of things, right? Um, but the important thing is not to let them affect you. That you're in charge. Again, it sounds like a broken record, but that you're in charge of yourself, not outside events. Can't control that. I'll be like, well, I don't have anything else to hit on this. Back to you.
No, I think like, low self-esteem, insecurity, these are more of those like internal factors that almost condition people to live a certain way. And then when you start living a certain way, like because of those types of traits that you have, like that quote earlier about the journey is the traveler, like it's almost like what you give to yourself and what you put out there, you actually get back. So if it's not, so your journey will reflect yourself as the traveler. So if you're constantly insecure, or let's say you're like jumping to conclusions a lot, or like just always expecting the worst outcome, not really having esteem in yourself or in other people, like kind of expecting to be disappointed and, all of that, like it's almost guaranteed you will be disappointed. You will have kind of this negativity come back to you. So that's all I'd have to add to that, really, is just, how you've trained yourself to think and live. You'll externally will come back to you externally as well.
Absolutely, Ben. Sadhguru, if I remember correctly, but I don't know, what goes around comes around, whether you call it karma or something else, the circle, toxic cycle, if you will, or just like the world card in the tarot. It's either a continuous cycle or the end of a cycle, depends on which way I believe it's flipped. And for me, it's like I try to live by the four cardinal virtues, which is temperance, justice, courage, and there's one more I can't remember. It's in my life. And there's one more. I'm not gonna waste time, but there's one more: temperance, courage, wisdom. There we go. Wisdom. I just like treating people with respect, dignity. Like you said, Ben, I don't want any karma coming my way if I know that I'm doing something bad, but I still choose to continue doing something bad. I don't want.
Yeah.
So, certainly.
I like that you brought up tarot a bit, just because, both of us are pretty versed in it. And I think for me, like what I like to do, and I actually am behind this year, I haven't pulled my card yet for this year. Usually I do it on like the first or the second, but it's been already kind of hectic this year. But a couple of years ago, my card for the year, I pull a card, and that's really something to keep in mind for that year. I kind of try to connect my energy with the energy of the universe through the cards in a way, right? And then something will come up when you pull the card. And one year I did get temperance, and I was still familiarizing myself with a lot of kind of concepts in tarot. So I like really looked up what temperance was, and like, what that means, kind of just, not jumping at, not like, just kind of in a way, just chill, like just, have a moment, and looking after that year was done, after I finished that year, so much had happened where temperance made a lot of sense that year to practice, to keep an extra effort to practice. And whenever I do pull a card for the year, I have it as my lock screen on my phone. So every time I check my phone, and we all check our phones all the time, whether it's a notification or the time, right? It's always there as the lock screen. So this past year was the Nine of Cups, which is a big one for gratitude. I'm trying to pull it up here. Essentially, it's this one.
Yep.
And I think looking back to how the year went, it was an amazing year. And I truly felt nothing but gratitude, almost like last year specifically was a gift, which it was, every year is, but like more so last year was just such an amazing year positively for me. And as each of those things, like each of these big moments for me happened last year, I climbed Kilimanjaro, which is like the highest peak in Africa. I ran probably my best New York marathon. It was my third time running, and it was like the best. And a lot of amazing, those are just my personal ones. Like I've celebrated other people's achievements with them, other people around me were experiencing some amazing things that I had the fortune to be part of. So every time throughout all of those moments, I'd look down and see Nine of Cups and be like, remind myself, like, none of this is a given. Like, this is all a gift. Have gratitude. And in retrospect, it's kind of like, wow, like that was the card for the year. And it made total sense. So yeah, again, just anything and tarot is one thing. It's kind of very niche and specialized, and not saying like you need to know the ins and outs of tarot to like practice things to remove negativity and things. But any way you can remind yourself of certain concepts. I think a lot of people go into a new year with a resolution. So like, what's your resolution this year? And how can you remind yourself as much as possible throughout your day-to-day to kind of really take a moment to stick through it, to remember what you've resolved to do for the next 12 months. So that's just another tidbit from my standpoint. But I like how you brought up kind of your principles via the tarot, because I do something similar where it's just a constant reminder, and it's easier for me to keep it top of mind, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's one of the things that brought us together, the whole spiritual realm, the tarot, the crystals, the moon water, the affirmations, all that. And I mean, people can believe whatever they want to believe, but but I still go to church. I still sometimes leave a 20 for the donation to help out the church and everything. But I consider myself a more spiritual person. I'm a little bit everywhere. I dibble dabble here, dibble dabble there, but all for my higher good. I don't want, like I said, I don't want anything coming back for me. But yeah, man, what have we learned from overcoming negative thoughts, energy? We're almost done here too. But anything you want to share on that, Ben? On what have you learned from overcoming your negative thoughts, other people's energy? Like, any advice? Anything you want to share?
For me, it was, I think, just the realization that you yourself are your biggest barrier. And that sounds really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like cliche, kind of like, but it's another cliche is like mind over matter. Like your mind is way more powerful than you realize. And I just find that that's so true. So I think those are very relevant sayings that are really common sayings. But in this conversation, I think like it's the truth. It's, I just remember one of the, like when I was like climbing that mountain, like there was a day when we had gone like up and down so much, like just hiking through rainforest and through dry. And then the final, like over the hill, I asked the guide, like, where is the next camp? Because I was just like admittedly getting tired. And it's just, once we go down this hill, it's just up, and then it's there on the top. I'm like, okay. So then when we start going down the hill and I realized what up was, it's like it was very, like, I'd be like looking up almost like vertically to see like where we needed to go. And it was windy, and you saw all these like people like just going up, and I just thought I was on empty and I didn't. Like I couldn't do it. Like I literally was like, going back is not an option at this point, but I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I was like sitting on this rock and I started kind of tearing up because it really hit me that day that like, what am I going to do? But seeing some people around me, and I think I said earlier, just like surrounding yourself with certain people that are inspiring and motivating, like my fellow climbers. One of the climbers is this amazing guy who lived such a full life, and he's 70 years old, and he's lived the fullest life, and he's one of the nicest, kindest people I've met. So I just thought, like, I look up to this person, and they're so excited to climb this really, really big segment of cliff. And I just kind of sucked it up and was like, you know what, thought about who I would do this for, including myself, and then kind of went on, because how lucky was I to kind of go across the world and see this country that is so different, and then climb this like miracle of nature, like the tallest freestanding mountain in Africa, like get to just hike up and climb a bit and hike up. So that's that perspective and gratitude kind of coming in, and then just inspiration, like pulling inspiration from other people. So it's kind of taught me like, wow, like my mind did all that. Like my body was probably very tired and I had to drink water. I had to just have a moment on that rock physically, but like, my mind like got me up there. So that's like one of the times it's hit me that it's kind of like, wow, mind is so powerful. Like your outlook and mindset will get you to the top. And it did, like literally for me. So like at the very top, I needed oxygen. As I was coming down from the summit, they like hooked me up to an oxygen machine. I started feeling like high altitude sickness, kind of acute, where I was forgetting people's names around me and just wanting to take a nap in the snow at the very top of the mountain. And the guides pulled me by my arms and like ran me down them, like to a safer spot where they could administer the oxygen. I mean, I made it to the top, got to hang out there a bit, but then it just started, the altitude just starts getting to your head, like the fat. And then coming down, I'm just like, wow, I did that. And my mind got me there as much as my body did, even more probably. So yeah, that's kind of like my anecdote about mind over matter. It's way powerful.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like a type of like a holy trinity, right? Body, mind, and soul. Right? Your soul was so grateful that you got to experience all these things in life, and you got to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Your body was like, dude, I'm tired, man. You're freaking pushing me to the limit. But your mind's like, Ben, keep going, Ben. So it's kind of like this beautiful mesh of life, Ben. Honestly, like there's no better way to put it. It's like, it's literally for your higher good, because you're climbing a higher mountain. So it's for your higher good. No pun intended.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I'm so happy for you. I saw the pictures. You look fabulous when you go on your marathon runs. I see those they give I guess the proper, I don't want to say paparazzi, but the people take, and I'm like, okay, look at my boy Ben doing great things,
Thanks.
So happy for you, man. I hope that your life path continues on beautiful and great things. I hope that one day I can go visit you in New York, or you can come here to Texas.
Absolutely.
Or like we always talk about, we can meet up in Chicago sometime. But nah, Ben, I'm so happy for you. Thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
Before we leave off, any book recommendations, Ben, that you would like to give the viewers? Any shout out for like, hey, people look out for this book that helped you, that molded you, that gave you a different perspective on life?
Yeah, I think admittedly, like I do need to read a bit more, but a book that I've read more than once, like I think I've read almost 3 full times, like was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And I know that that's like a lot of people's favorite book, but there's a reason. Like the time I read it, first when I was in university, and then again in my like later 20s. And every stage of my life that I read it, I'm still like learning something new, maybe, or just about myself, or just reflecting in a way that's so relevant in whatever I'm doing at the moment.
Yes.
But it's essentially about the journey of this shepherd, I guess, shepherd boy, and his name's Santiago. And the whole book is about him trying to find his like personal legend, they call it, but I think it's more just his purpose, right? And I'm not going to give away because it's such a great book,
It is.
because there's some twists in there and some great character development, and it kind of reminds me of him setting off on the fool's journey in a way, right? If you're gonna go back to tarot, the Fool card is the first one, and it kind of initiates the whole story of what the tarot is meant to signify. But I'd recommend it for anyone. I think when I thought about the topic of this discussion, I thought about overcoming obstacles and finding your path, and how positive thinking and removing, negative, debilitating negative thoughts can help for that and achieving your goals. I think this is a good book that's also relevant specifically for this discussion, but it also happens to be probably one of my favorite books. I have it in English. I have it in Spanish. I like reading it in both because it actually helps me practice my Spanish. But there's a couple of quotes, and yeah, what's up?
No, I was just laughing.
There's El Alchemista. There's a couple of quotes in there that I pulled out. Basically, don't give in to your fears. If you do, you won't be able to talk to your heart. Again, that's overcoming negativity, right? And then also that there's only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve, and that's the fear of failure. Again, like, of course, life is that journey. So if you're taking a negative thought like fear with you, it just really will hinder that, right? So yeah, that's kind of the book I thought of to talk about.
You and my friend Daisy from Chicago, she loves that book, by the way. My last episode, she mentioned The Alchemist, and I read it once.
Yeah.
I read it once. I loved it. I think Mr. Paulo finished it in one day, I believe. So that's the rumor, right? I don't know if it's true, but that's the rumor out there. But that'd be
I
great.
think I heard that. Yeah, not sure.
If you did in one day, I mean, wow.
Fantastic.
Yeah, what an inspiration. And the thing that I want to know about that book is, when I read it, I don't know what, not to give out any secrets or ruin the spoiler alert, anything like that, but the Englishman, it's like he comes in and he leaves. Like, what happens to the Englishman? Like, I'm not going to go into any details, but like, I want to know what happened to that guy. Is he just there for is he like a ghost or what? Anyway, I'll leave it like that.
He's on his own. He's on his own journey. He's on his own journey, right? And there should be a spinoff called The Englishman, and they should just set it in the same Alchemist universe, but really tell it from his perspective. I think that'd be interesting.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I love that book. Thank you for sharing that. Great book.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
The that I like to share that helped me through immense heartbreak, they call it the human, what do they call it? The human, not the human experience, but the human condition. The thing that helped me with my human condition is called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I absolutely love that book. It's kind of like a question answer from actual people trying to question, like, how do you even come up with these things? And basically he answers. It's just one of the biggest things that I took about that book is we are not our thoughts. And that's why I picked How to Overcome Negative Thoughts, Negative Energy. We're not them. We're the observer of our thoughts, right? We look them in. It's kind of like either we want to pay attention to them or we don't. Do we want to feel like this or we don't? Just observe it. It taught me a lot, man, honestly. I read that book, I kid you not, maybe 6 times. And every time I read it, I learn something new that I missed. I mean, maybe I missed a passage, or maybe now I can put a life on almost 33 years of my life. I have learned something new, but now I can apply it thanks to the book. maybe, experience, I guess. But yeah, great book. It's the author is Mr. Eckhart Tolle. And it's basically, it says on the top, in the title, it's a guide to spiritual enlightenment. So what a book. But Ben, thank you for coming on. Before I pass it on to you for any closing remarks, I want to say thank you for being on here. I know you're a busy guy, and any little time that you have for me or for this episode, I immensely am so grateful. So thank you so much, man. I look forward to having possibly another chit chat with you in the future. I love you, man. Anything that you want to say before you bounce?
No, I think I appreciate you having me. So thank you for having me. And again, I'm very proud that you're doing this. You fought off negative thoughts of procrastination, which is, on the scale of just maybe it's a more passive negativity procrastination, but it's still something that is a barrier to achieving your goals. And I think your goal is to have a great show podcast here where you have amazing discussions and you invite good people, and you're achieving it now. So that's amazing. And congrats to you on that. And again, thank you for having me. I feel honored that you thought of me, and I know we had talked about this for months. I'm happy to be here, and just wishing you all the best, but we will be definitely talking. So, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
No, Ben, thank you, man. I appreciate your kind words. And like I said, one day we'll meet in person, man. And I'm gonna give you the biggest hug ever, man. For real. You become
Yeah. It'll be good.
Yeah. You become an extension of me in a way. You're my friend that I never met. You're kind of like the Englishman to me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I want to be more Santiago, but it's okay. We can all be Santiago.
It's all good. It's all. But anyway,
or maybe I want to be the alchemist himself.
Yeah, man. Why
I
not?
need that gold. No, just kidding.
Well, that gold. But Ben, thank you again. I love you. I hope you have a blessed day, a blessed year. How do they say it? Namaste. And yeah, man. That's it.
Thank you. We'll chat soon.
See you.